So today, thanks for everybody for taking that time. Today, basically what we're going to be covering is one-click actions, right? And I don't know if I actually introduced myself. My name is Clint Higley. I work here in the U.S. office. I do support. So if you've, talked to the U.S. support, you've more than likely talked to me. Always with me is Michael. He is just the all-around guy at mscrm-addons, and he'll be answering your questions today in the chat. So let's kind of get started with these one-click actions. So basically talking about document generation delivery with a single click. Kind of want to take a second here and talk about one-click actions and what they are and kind of how they were developed, right? So we'll kind of go over that. So what we've kind of found, this is back in CRM 2013, we kind of came up with this idea where we would do if you're familiar with it, the DocumentsCorePack dialog, right? And the DocumentsCorePack dialog, basically what it was it allows you to basically pick the template and then basically, for like it said in the first step, just generate a document, whether that be a PDF, docx, HTML, on and on and on. We have a couple of them. So for example, like we have an invoice that needs to be generated as a PDF, right? Well, then we also, like with the DocumentsCorePack dialog, we started improving it by adding the post-processing steps, being able to process and deliver these documents that you're doing via email, so e-signature, SharePoint, being able to print them, like after you generate the document, you want to do something with it, right? So a good example of that would be like if I create a document, I wanted to save it to SharePoint, send it by email, and per copy of it, I'm able to do this through the dialog. The last piece was control and review, right? And what we mean by that is being able to actually review the document you've been generated, make edits to that document, right? So if you, you want to say create a document and add a few notes to it or something along those lines, you were able to do so via the dialog. So the example here is allow users to review and edit it. So just be able to look over it, and kind of like make some corrections to it, or may add some things to it and kind of send those out. Well, over time, kind of what we found is that and a lot of people were saying to us is they're doing the same process over and over and over again, right? So that's where basically the one-click actions kind of came into play. And what one-click actions basically are is the ability to take these processes that you do and just like pre-configure them so that it basically saves you time. It kind of saves error, user error and things of that nature, because everything's configured for you. So basically what I could do is create then a one-click action here that if I follow through the examples here, I'm going to create a PDF, invoice PDF. I'm going to send it via email, save it to SharePoint, and print it. And also at the same time, allow editing of that document, right? So that's basically how one-click actions kind of evolved and how how we kind of brought that into play. So there's a couple of things now that we've kind of been doing these for a few years with these one-click actions and everything like that. There's a couple of features that I kind of sat down when we were kind of putting this webinar together, and I asked a lot of guys in support, like in the support meetings and everything like that, what are some of the main things, that people are using that they're kind of missing out on, right? Number one that came into play was display rules. Display rules for one-click actions. Now, basically what this allows you to do is it allows you to show OCAs that are basically relevant to your users, and that could be based on their security role, some field data on the record, or actually using fetch XML to allow you to basically go a little bit deeper. This will kind of make sense when I show it in the demo, but so why would you kind of want to use this? Well, we do have like some customers basically that are out there that on one entity, right, they have 150 one-click actions, right? Some of the one-click actions are for their sales team. Some of the one-click actions are for their accounting team, etc. And what this allows you to do, these display rules, is it allows you to just show, like, for example, you can set up display rules for all of the one-click actions that are just for sales. So then if I'm a salesperson, I'm only going to see those one-click actions that are relative to me. If I'm on the accounting team, I'm only going to see those one-click actions that are relative to me as an accountant, right? So it just basically minimizes the amount of choices and things like that that you have to scroll through And this is probably, I think, one of the most underutilized features that we have for one-click actions. The next one, and this is another big one, is conditional template selection, right? And basically, it allows you to set this up to where you auto-select a template, and that it can also be like based on like field data, again, using fetch XML or conditional template groups, right? Basically, the main thing of that is that you always want to make sure that your users are selecting the correct template. And if you know that if they're doing this certain process or these fields say these, have these certain values to them, they're always going to want to be using that template. So why not just select that basically for them, right? And lastly, and this is relatively new, is OCAs in workflows and flows. Okay, this has been around for a little bit here in workflows, and is coming as in flows, and then coming a little bit easier into flows. But basically, we have a one-click action designer. You're going to hear me use the term OCA, and one-click action basically means the same thing, right? So we have this OCA designer where you actually kind of go through and you can kind of set up these one-click actions, right? Well, what we were finding is in your workflows and your flows and everything like that, you kind of want to do the same thing, use the same logic, right? To be able to automatically select the template or create a multi-part document or something along those lines. And it when you try to transfer that over to a flow or a workflow, it can get really messy, right? Because especially if you're doing a multi-part document, right, and you have 3 documents that you're concatenating together in a workflow, you'd have to create document 1, then you'd have to create document 2, then you'd have to concatenate them together, then you have to create document 3, and you concatenate that, right? And then with your OCA, right, it's just you just set that up and it's just one click and it goes. Well, being able to kind of call these OCAs in your workflows and flows basically will then allow you to basically skip those 5 steps, right? You just call the one-click action in your flow or your workflow, and it'll then execute that. So it just simplifies that whole process and basically avoids any kind of complications setting up these flows and workflows, right? So really, really handy feature. Kind of new. But I think that more and more as we kind of roll this out and people are more aware of it, that they'll use this a lot more. All right. So what are we going to do today? We're just going to do basically a step-by-step demo about, excuse me, how to create a one-click action, kind of how to show and hide those how to show show and hide the one-click actions, how to show templates based on conditions. We're going to show you how to get to that. And using a flow and a one-click action to create a multi-part document, right? So let me just kind of flip over here to my demo system, right? And what I've got here is just an invoice, and that's basically what I'm going to be using today. Normally, when you're creating an invoice, right, so I'll hit the create document button, go in. I'm going to just, I have 2 one-click actions that are kind of pre-configured here. This one here called webinar invoice, and that's the one we're going to use today, right? So I'm going to click on that. Basically what happens here, this is just a standard DocumentsCorePack dialog. I haven't really done any configuration to this OCA except for give it a name, right? So here, basically I can, select my template, say next. Here, I'm going to create a PDF. I'm going to then let's say just attach it as a note here. I'm going to save it to SharePoint, and then on and on and on. I can do like all these different actions. I can select them. They're totally selectable, but these are the only 3 that I'm actually going to set. From here, I'm going to say next. What happens is the DocumentsCorePack dialog rolls out, grabs the document, grabs the template, fills in that data, actually, and just takes a couple seconds here. Usually normally the first one is the worst one, and this is the first one that I did today. So here again, I have the ability, as I said before, to actually edit the document. I can edit in Word or Word Online, right? I can also say preview the document here. so I can take a look at this, on and on. So that's an entirely simple process. Once I'm done, once I click finish, it's going to attach it to the note and save it to SharePoint. So I'll go ahead and say finish here, and it's going to go. And then I can come over here to my details, over to my notes, and you can see here that invoice has been created and attached to the note, right? So let's say that I'm going to be doing this over and over and over again, right? I want to be able just to click the button and have it go, right? So what I want to do here is I want to configure a one-click action for this. So how do I do that? Well, let me just go ahead and say what you want to do here. We'll show it. You want to come over here in Dynamics to your advanced settings. It's basically be over here to your advanced settings here. That's going to open this window up for you. Here on your settings, just click on that. Head over to DocumentsCorePack. Select that. Right, and then here I am in my DocumentsCorePack configuration. Here I'm going to select one-click actions, right? So this is the first screen you're kind of going to be presented with. Basically, you have 3 different ways that you can view this. These are all my active, the ones that I have, the entities that I have one-click actions configured for. Available lets me know all the other entities that I do not have one-click actions configured for, and all, of course, is everything under the sun, right? All the ones I don't and do have one configured for. So here, in order to kind of go through it here, so I'm working here with the invoice, right? So I want to go ahead and I can edit my one-click actions, right? So I'll just go ahead and select that. Brings up all my one-click actions that I have already configured for this. I have the single record actions, and below are the batch actions. Single record is when I'm just doing it on a single record, and batch is when, say, I select 10 of them and just want to spit a document out for each 10 of those, right? So today, what we're working with here is this webinar invoice, right? So one thing before I go, if I want to create a new one, I just hit new single, and it would ask me for a name, which is kind of where I've ended up here, right? So webinar invoice, on this page, you give it a name. You can give it a description, right? So, people can actually see what the one-click action does. Really and truly, if I wanted to be cool, I would call this, webinar invoice, create a PDF, and attach it to the notes and save it to SharePoint. Okay. A couple other things here. You can set as the default configuration. By doing that, it basically means that every time I click the create document button, it's automatically going to run this one and ignore every single other one. So if you have multiple ones, don't do that. All right. So once I've set this up, I'm going to go out down here. I have 4 different steps to kind of go through my steps. So step number 2 is where we're actually going in and we're doing our template selection, right? So we have a couple different options in template selection. We have the allow user selection, a predefined template, or use multipart, right? So allow user selection, you can actually edit the template as a one-off, right? There's certain situations where you kind of want to do that. But here, the most important thing, one of the things that I want to highlight is conditional template groups. Now, in DocumentsCorePack, as you're saving these templates, one thing you may not have noticed is that you're actually able to group your templates into separate groups. So, like, for example, on the invoice, right, if I have, I have all the templates in one group for the accounting group. I have all the templates in one group for the sales group, right? And what this allows me to do here is I can give it like a condition name, right? And then give it like the group. Like, so this would be like, so for example, the different groups here that I want to actually give it to, so like, say like the events group, and then like the condition name is for, right? So, and then I can actually set a condition for this to where it's actually going to be able to show that. So let's just say like here, I have set it up in such a way that, like, for example, this shows me all the fields that are on the record, right? So like if the opportunity is say for example, like I don't know, like these different opportunities, right? I can actually put that in there. And like, let's say there's like more than one, right? I can actually hit this little thing to copy it and then select another, a certain, oh, wait, I selected the same one. There we go. Let's just change this around. So I can kind of keep going, right? So for different opportunities that they have, they're going to allow selection from this particular template group. This is all well and fine. Let's say, though, that I want to go a little bit deeper here. But as you can see here, I only have fields that are on the invoice record itself, right? If I want to go a little bit deeper with that, say like I want to pull a value based on this invoice for an account that's, say, the accounts, the account of the parent contacts in Florida, they live in Florida or something along those lines, right? Can't do that here, but what I can do for that is I can use fetch XML. Okay, and what I mean by that is that so I can actually use an actual fetch, right, where I can fetch that data back from Dynamics and actually put that in there, and it's actually going to be displayed, right? It's going to actually select the template for me, right? One click thing, if you're not familiar with this, if you're not familiar with fetch XML, you're basically going to set these up like in advanced find, right? So you're going to do your advanced find query, right? So I don't know. It doesn't really matter, but right. So you have this value. Once I have my query set up and it's actually pulling back the data that I want, I can download this fetch XML, right? I can open it up. No, I do not want that. I can open up that fetch. Okay. I can take that fetch here and just copy it out, right? And then paste it right in there. And that's how you do your fetch, right? You set everything up in advanced find the way you want it. It's actually returning the records that you want, and then just download that fetch XML and paste it into there. That's basically how you use that. All right, I'm just going to cancel out of these two because I actually don't want that. The next piece is basically then a predefined template. Here I can actually just predefine. So I want here the template. And let me just find it. Oops, I hit my thing on my mouse. Oops. And my mouse is going crazy. Go real slow. Oh, hang on. I accidentally bumped my DPI up on my mouse. Hold on. So here, I want to predefine my template here. And I'm going to select my template that I want. Add. Oh, wait. Find my template here. Real important here when you're selecting these templates, right? That it will basically show you all templates here. Be careful which one you select, right? So you need to make sure you know the template. So here I'm just selecting the template. This is going to actually predefine the template that I'm going to be selecting, right? Well, let's say that you have a case, right, where you might have two different templates that you want to select. Let's say I want to use conditional template selection, right? I can do that too as well. So I can select my template here. Hang on. And we'll find this first template here. Let's see here. So I can have a couple here. So webinar, right? And then I can select a condition on what I want to do that. Let's see. Where is it? So let's see these, like if say the invoice is created by me, I want to select that one. and then say okay. And then let's say, for example, I'm going to add a new condition here. And let's see if the invoice was created by another user, say for like someone from the accounting team, who's going to follow up with someone that the invoice is 60 days overdue here. Usually those are created by let's see, by Michael, right? So basically the way that I have this set up now, if it's created by my user right now, John Snow, who is just a salesperson that's sending out invoices to people, it's going to select this particular template. If it's an like say like Michael's coming around and he's looking on his view and he's got all the 60-day late invoices and he wants to send those out, it's going to select that for him using the same one-click action, right? Going to select this. So I'll go ahead and say okay here, right? Last but not least, we have the multi-part document here that you're allowed to use, that you can use. I'm going to show that here in just a second. So I'm going to kind of skip over that and kind of keep going here. So I've got those two set up, right? I've got those two. It's selecting the template based on those two users. So next, I'm going to show the next step here. Not going to go into too much detail here because that is something that we've kind of gone over in a previous webinar here. But basically, this is just that one page, right, where I can actually select here, like I want a PDF. I want to attach the document as a note, okay? And I want to save to SharePoint, right? Those are the three that I want. Now, I don't want these things to be changed, right? I want them to stay the same, but I still want the user to see what they're doing. So we have a few things over here that we can set, right? We can show and hide things. Like, for example, this file type here, I want to show but do not allow changes. I want them to be able to see that they're saving it to a note, but I don't want them to change that. Print document, I don't even want them to see that. So I'm going to have them hide this setting. So I'm just going to go through, and the ones that I'm not selecting, I'm going to go ahead and hide them all, right? And then the save to SharePoint. Maybe they want to save, maybe they do want to save, right? So we're just going to allow them to kind of change that if they want to save to SharePoint or not, right? Once I'm done with that, I'm pretty much finished, except for do I want the user to be able to review their document? Do I want them to create a PNG preview? That's what you saw when I clicked the little thing. You saw a little preview of the document come up, and allow document edits. Let's say because these are invoices, I know they're correct. Don't want them to be able to edit the document. So I just want to be able to review and create a PNG preview, right? So that's pretty much it. Once I'm done with that, I can go ahead and save it, right? That is basically, so I have this one-click action now configured, right? Last but not least, the one thing that I wanted to show was display action. As you saw when I was, doing the one-click, the create document button earlier, you saw these two, right? Being that this is my OCA for a flow, I don't want it to be seen at all. And I don't want people to be able to select that, right? So to edit these display rules, it's kind of a little bit, you see these little plus signs here, right? This is how I actually get into the display rules here. Okay. First thing that's going to come up is going to say, how do I want to do this? Do I want to do it, via a security role? This is where it would come in, say, for example, like if this would be for sales, right? I want them to I want sales managers only to see it. I want a salesperson to see it. If they have these security roles, I want them to see that, right? You also have here under the advanced settings, the ability to do exactly what we've done before, which is to show based on a field, right? Show it based on a field. So hang on one second. I just need to, I'm gonna do this just so it kind of disappears. That's only used for this particular account. Lastly, of course, you can then of course use the fetch XML as well. So I'm going to go ahead and click OK. So now, and save this. So now you can see here with this little icon here that this actually has display rules set up. So now when I click this one-click action over here, right, what I should get is I should see I hit the create document button. So I see my webinar invoice. This is the one that I edited, the one that is going to actually select the template for me, etc. But the other one is disappeared, right? So it's because it doesn't, it doesn't meet the condition. It's not shown, right? So I'm going to go ahead and select this. Going to be a little bit different this time. It's going to go right into. It's already selected the template for me, right? It's going to go right into here. I have my file type as PDF. I can't change that, but at least I know that it's a PDF. I'm going to attach the document as a note. And then I have the ability here to say whether or not I want to save to SharePoint. So I click next here. Again, same thing. Document is taking the template, creating that document, putting it all together for me. And yeah, there we go. So I have the ability here, as you can see here before, I had the edit. I could edit with Word or Word Online. I don't have that anymore. I kind of took it away. And I have the ability to preview. It's the same document as before. Show me that quick preview, right? So it's as simple as that. I'll click Finish, come over here to Details, refresh, please. And hang on. Where's my refresh button? It's missing. There we go. So I have that. I have my, oh, it blocked my download now. Funny. So I have this new, this document that I just created. It's then attached to the note. All right. So that's pretty much it in a nutshell. Now, as I said before here, we've got this OCA for flows. It's just really quick. Like what I've done in here, I've just given this thing a name, right? And what I've done is I'm using a multi-part document, right? So what a multi-part document allows you to do, it allows you to take several templates and kind of like smash them all together into like a workbook, right? So usually like what we see is like, like someone has a cover page, right? And then they have the body of the document, and then they might have terms and conditions that they want to add, and so on and so forth. You can kind of keep doing that all the way down, right? So you give this thing like, for example, like you give it the name, the label of it, tell it what template it's actually going to use, tell it for each individual one. You can give it a description if you want to. You can also use it conditionally, right? So if I have like different cover letters showing different logos for different companies, right? When I'm making a proposal or something along those lines, I can do the whole conditional thing, right? And it gives me kind of the same options here. The ability to use fields on the actual record and to also use fetch if I want to go deeper, right? So basically what I've done is I've gone ahead and set this up, and this is something that basically this is a 30 days overdue invoice that I want to kind of thing that I want to send out to people, right? That I want to create and send out to people. And I want to do this for every single invoice that's overdue by 30 days, right? So I want to include this this little message at the beginning, and then I also want to include the invoice in it, and I want them concatenated, right? To do this in a workflow, right, I would basically have to create this one template, create this next template, concatenate them together. If I wanted a third one, I've kind of gone over the example before. Let me just go ahead and run this for you so you can kind of see what it looks like. First off, I need to unhide this. So I'm going to unhide this so I actually see it in my selection, right? So save it. So you can kind of see what this sort of looks like here. I'll just come back to this invoice. There we go. Create document, create the OCA for flow. Tells me here, basically here, this is the body here of, basically what I want to say to the person, and then the actual invoice itself. I'll go ahead and click next. Then I have my different things that I want. I'm just going to create a PDF just to kind of show you this, kind of get through it. And we got our document creation process. And it's a little bit longer because it has to actually create 2 templates. Yeah, and then we're good to go, right? So it's all set up. It's good. So let me just talk a little bit about how I'm going to actually use that. I'm going to show it to you in an actual flow. Now, this is something that is going to probably change by the end of the month. It should be a lot simpler, should be a lot easier. You can do these in workflows. This is just kind of a little bit example just to show kind of how this goes. So this flow is a reoccurring flow that runs on every Monday at say midnight, I believe it is. I have it set up. Oh wait. Let's see here. Minute. So this runs, yeah, every week at Monday night. It'll run, right? Basically, all I'm doing here is I'm listing rows of invoices and how I'm bringing that back. These invoices. This is a fetch that I put into the advanced find. And I was like, show me all invoices where they're older than 30 days, right? And it's going to pull back all those records from me from Dynamics, right? Then what I'm basically going to do is to each of these records, I'm going to apply this new thing. I'm going to add an auto merge working item. If you're not familiar with auto merge working items, the auto merge working item is basically the record that tells our DocumentsCorePack service what to do, right? So there's a few things that I have to put in here in order for it to go, right? The first thing that I'm going to have to throw in there is my one-click action. Now I have to basically define it like this. It's basically the schema name for the one-click action. But because Flow loves to make everything plural, make sure you use one-click actions. And then I need to pull the GUID of the actual one-click action itself. So I've gone in there, I've grabbed that GUID, put it in there. The other thing that's important is the primary record URL. We do have another webinar on flows and everything like that. It tells you how to build these things out. Would highly suggest going back and doing that. I'm kind of glossing over this a little bit real quick because, like I said, you'll kind of see here when I kind of go over the roadmap, you'll see that this is a lot simpler the other way, the new way once this piece comes out with the DocumentsCorePack connector. But basically for each of them, I'm creating this primary record URL. It's just a URL of the record that I'm running this against so that the service knows where to grab the data from. Last but not least, I do have to define this save as a PDF. Now, I bet you're kind of asking yourself, why am I showing you this if it's going to be simpler in a couple weeks from now? So most of the people that are going to use this, like for example, like if you're going to, as we've done in a webinar before on batches, right? The best way to create thousands of documents at one time is to basically do this with this auto merge working item, right? That's the fastest way instead of the DocumentsCorePack connector. So this also goes for people who are basically hosting their own service and can't use the DocumentsCorePack connector. So they can still create these records in Dynamics, and then our service can pick them up and use them. But that's basically only the three fields that I need to set, right? The save as, the primary record URL, and then the actual one-click action itself. So once we're done with that, let's just go ahead and run a test on this here just to kind of show you. So I'm going to run the flow, and we'll go to the flow runs page. Wait for it to run down. This is really simple. All this thing is doing is actually just creating the document, and that's pretty much it. I'm not doing anything with the document afterwards. Just kind of wanted to show what's possible, but you're able to run in there and grab it. So let's have a look here. Let's actually clear these, right, and clear that. Okay, and then let's take a look at our results here. So here we go. So this is the record that we've been using this whole time. So let me just see if this is done. Take a quick look here. It's in process here by the service. So let's give it a few more seconds here to process. And there we go. So here underneath our created document, we open this up. We go into our notes here, and we can see here the document has gone and been created. So I have, just as I had before here, my letter, and then the other template here with the actual invoice on it. So you can actually pick that up from that one particular user temp and use it however you want to. Save it to SharePoint, push it to OneDrive, push it to Teams for someone to take a look at, etc. Email it, whatever you want to do. Yeah, and that's pretty much it. That's pretty much how that is done here with Flow, and also the same thing with workflows, right? It's the same thing. So pretty simple. So that concludes that demo. Last thing I want to talk about is some things that are coming up. So as you saw before, you know, in the Documents Core Pack dialog, we're kind of like refreshing this whole thing to make it look a lot easier and usable, right? That gives you like you can group your OCAs, you can click on your most used action to bring those to the top, etc. You know, you have all these that you basically want to use. It's just kind of a refresh, a little bit of a UI change to make things a lot simpler for the users. Last but not least, as I mentioned before, the Documents Core Pack connector, adding this, you can see here, it's only 3 things, right? I picked the environment that I'm actually going to be, you know, doing this in, the entity ID, and then the actual one-click action. I'm able to select a one-click action. I don't have to go out and find the GUID of the one-click action or anything like that. I'm just able to select it and it's able to go. So yeah, a couple of things here. When you get the slides, right, these help resources here. Oops, I'll back that up. Would highly suggest just taking some time, taking a look at those, look through those, get familiar with it. If you have any questions or anything like that, let us know. Okay. I want to thank everybody for coming today.